What is going on, guys? Joel coming with another video on the Eclipse build. So today I'm going to be taking the Eclipse motor apart. I'm going to be bringing it down to the bare block, taking out those bolts that are broken in the head and the block, and just taking all the rest of the pulleys off of the block. So when I had pulled a few of them off already, there were a couple of them that were bent up. So I don't know if that was my issue with the engine or if there's something internal. So when I take it all apart, I'm gonna check through everything, make sure there's no bent valves or anything wrong with the pistons. I may send out that crank to a machine shop and see how that's looking. Worst case scenario, I'll just end up getting a crank in. Don't really want to do that, so hopefully this one's good, but I wanted to take you guys along with as I'm tearing this apart, and I'm going to be taking a lot of pictures as I go through it, just because I want to make sure, I don't have any stone left unturned, that I know where everything goes back to when I go to put it back together, because it kind of sucked to have a few extra bolts at the end of it and have some issues. So I want to make sure when I get this back together it's going to be running great and that I don't have any issues. So I figured I'd take you guys along with as I tear this apart, and let's get to it. Pulling the valve covers off of the 4G63s are pretty easy. You just have 6 bolts on the outside here, and then you've got some bolts along the channel, so we'll get that taken care of. Alright, so I pulled all of the bolts off the valve cover here. Just a few holding it on. So this is what inside the head looks like. Looks like he was telling the truth with the head being built. There are some ARP head studs in there. Probably can't see with the lighting here, but yeah, so it's looking pretty clean in here. I'll have to take the head off and see what's going on, if there's any of the valves bent. Not seeing any issues up here yet, but we'll dig a little deeper here. Looks like the camshafts themselves are looking pretty good. There's no unusual pitting or anything. So I don't know if you guys noticed or not, I ended up putting those lifters in the orientation that I pulled them out just to make sure that when I go to put it back together, it's all set in that, so then I can put it in the same location. I'll probably have to end up doing different lifters, but the rockers I want to keep in the same position just so that I make sure that when I put it all back together, it's all good on that. Just want to make sure to cover every step along with this, just so that when I go to put it back together, it'll actually run good. So like I said, I just put the lifters in the orientation as well, just because, just to cover all the steps. Alright guys, so here's the block, all torn into. Looks like we didn't end up having any blowouts with the head gasket here, so it's always a good sign. Let's take a look at the head here. We got a valve sticking out the way it shouldn't be. So it looks like we've got it on the other end there too. It looks like we might have to get some new valves here as well. Hopefully it didn't end up damaging anything. It doesn't look like it, but we'll make sure to hit every note here. We'll pull off those retaining rings and pull off the springs and get those valves out of there. Alright guys, we're going to wrap up with today's video here. I ended up getting the engine down to the block as I wanted. Got a few different parts to pull off still. The balance shafts, I've got to pull those head bolts out still, along with the crank pulley. And then we should just have a few small things after that. But I did notice when taking a closer look at those cylinders that there are some metal shavings on the pistons there. And those are both the cylinders where the valves were not seated correctly on the head. So in the next video, we'll end up tearing into that head. We'll pull those valves out, see if there's any damage around where they're seated on the head. Hopefully they're not, because I don't really want to need to get a new head in for that, but we'll end up seeing what parts we need to get in, and we'll go from there. So like if you like the video, and subscribe to follow the build, and we will see you in the next one.